454.
You know where I never want to go? My attic or crawl space. No thanks. It's manufactured. I leave that to the pros at Crawl Pros. When we heard the scratching sound at night, my husband and I had the same fear. Rodents. The friendly team from Crawl Pros came out to the house and conducted a thorough corner-to-corner evaluation of our entire crawl space and attic. They took pictures of the trouble spots. They were super friendly and explained exactly what they were going to do to keep the critters out. The cold weather drives rodents to seek warmer places to hide, like crawl spaces and attics. Those little critters that find their way in also bring fleas and mites that carry disease. Crawl Pros will completely clean out all signs of the pests using a non-toxic odor neutralizer, and they'll seal up the entry points. You'll be impressed by their online reviews, including a 5-star rating on Yelp. If you suspect any issue in your crawl space or attic, including water damage, mold, rodents, or heat loss due to poor insulation, do what I did. Schedule an evaluation of your crawl space and attic at crawlpros.com. That's crawlpros.com.
Hi, this is Carter Gray with Pacific Insurance Group. I actually wanted to do a TV commercial, but my friends told me I have a better face for the radio. Can you believe that? Here's what you can believe. We have the best companies at the best rates, and we're here to help you get the best deal on life insurance. Go to pacificinsurancegroup.com.
KOMO Seattle.
KOMO FM Oakville.
20 minutes of nonstop news starts now.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franson. In Iraq, reports of 2 rockets fired, landing somewhere inside the so-called Green Zone in Baghdad, where the U.S. Embassy and other diplomatic offices are located. It comes as the U.S. and Iran took a step back from recent escalations following Iran's missile strikes aimed at U.S. bases in Iraq. Those strikes in response to the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top general. Earlier today, President Trump says Iran must change its position on nuclear weapons and attacks. President Trump said the United States will immediately impose what he called powerful economic sanctions on Iran.
These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior.
The U.S. already has sanctions on Iran put in place since President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear agreement. Those penalties have had a crippling effect on Iran's economy. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Erbil, Iraq, and says the threat to the U.S. is not over.
We're certainly hearing from the leader of one of those organizations that is prescribed by the United States as a terrorist organization. They're saying that the Iranians have had their turn. Now it's time for the
For the first time today on the Trump administration's claims that General Qasem Soleimani posed an imminent threat. Democrats remain skeptical, and following one briefing, GOP Senator Mike Lee of Utah lashed out.
What we were told over and over again was, look, this action was necessary. This was a bad guy. We had to do it. And we can't have division. We can't have dissension within our ranks, within our government, or else it sends us the wrong signal to the Iranians. I think that's completely wrong.
The investigation into the Ukrainian International Airlines flight that crashed shortly after takeoff in Tehran continues. Current intelligence points to the likelihood of a catastrophic event like an engine blowing up. You're listening to ABC News.
Stay connected. Stay informed. Como Midday.
Good afternoon, it's 2:02. I'm Taylor Van Sice with our top stories from the Como 24/7 News Center. Our state's senior U.S. senator says she'll continue to demand the president justify the strike that killed one of Iran's top military leaders. Como's Ryan Harris says she also wants notice before any further action.
Democratic Senator Patty Murray says while she's relieved no lives were lost in Iran's missile strike in Iraq, this, she says, is a volatile and frightening time for our country. Murray says President Trump has taken steps without authorization or notice to Congress that have raised tensions with Iran and put lives of Americans and our allies at risk.
There is no clear goal or clear-eyed understanding of the risks we have assumed. There was absolutely zero debate here in this Congress. Unless you happen to be on the golf course with the president, absolutely no notification that he planned to massively escalate tensions with a foreign power overnight.
Murray also joined with progressive Democrats in the House, including Pramila Jayapal of Seattle, with her promise to reassert congressional authority through a war powers resolution expected to get a vote by next week. Ryan Harris, Como News.
Meanwhile, Washington Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, who chairs the House Armed Services Committee, says he's very concerned that we're headed for another war in the Middle East.
I'm deeply worried about where it might go, and I'm very concerned in particular about the U.S. persons, service members, and others in Iraq and the Middle East whose lives are at risk if there is a prolonged conflict with Iran.
Republican Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers from the Spokane area says the decisive strike that took out the Iranian commander was a defensive action against imminent threats and plans to attack more Americans. She also says Congress needs to be involved in further actions. Two members of Congress are being briefed on the situation in Iraq and Iran. Washington Congressman Rick Larson, serving on the Armed Services Committee, saying that the missile strikes on bases in Iraq are very concerning and says now is the time for the U.S. to show restraint, get allies behind us, and ensure the protection of U.S. forces in Iraq. We're learning that one of the victims in last weekend's deadly attack on a military base in Kenya was a man from the Auburn area. According to Facebook and a post from the man's wife, Dustin Harrison was killed along with two other Americans when extremists overran a base used by U.S. counter-terror forces on Sunday. Harrison was a 1990 graduate from Auburn High School. Hope Harrison, who lives in Tucson with their young daughter, writes that her husband worked the past 15 years as a contract pilot for the Defense Department. We've reached out to the family for further comment. 2:04 Como. Time for an update on our Como traffic with Sue Romero.
Help has arrived with this stall in downtown Seattle, so it's been moved out of the way, northbound I-5 on the collector distributor lanes or the side lanes there before the James Street exit. It's all off to the right side now, but damage is done. It's slow from at least Albro trying to get north on I-5 and into downtown because of a couple of earlier stalls, actually. Southbound on I-5 is heavy, approaching 520, basically down to about the West Seattle Bridge. If you're on the east side, I'm seeing some more slowdowns southbound on 405 from before I-90 down through Newcastle, then at 44th and Renton. If you're heading north on 405, it does look slow coming out of Renton, right around the Maple Valley Highway up towards Sunset. It looks like rain is kind of hitting in spots in South Seattle and also over in the Renton, Newcastle area. Your next Como traffic at 2:14.
Our Como forecast now. Here's meteorologist Abby Acone.
We're tracking some cooler weather across western Washington for the foreseeable future. Today, all the way through Sunday, highs range in the low to mid-40s. We're down to the mid-30s for highs on Monday, and we could struggle to get out of the 20s for high temperatures on Tuesday. Now, during this time, in a few opportunities, we could be looking at some lower elevation snow with the timing that varying day to day. As for the rest of your Wednesday, we're dealing with a small chance for a little bit of a rain-snow mix over some of the foothill locations of the Cascades, but little snow accumulations or impacts expected. Elsewhere along the I-5 corridor, keeping it the possibility for a few showers, blustery conditions, and cloudy skies. I'm meteorologist Abby Acone, the Como Weather Center.
Some scattered showers around our area. It's 44 degrees at Como News. 2:06. Fire-ravaged Australia has put out a call for help from around the world, and that call is being answered here in Washington. Como's Brian Calvert tells us the Northwest has offered resources to help fight the flames. There are now 50 American firefighters in Australia. 10 of them are from Washington and Oregon, and they arrived at the airport. We received a hero's club from Chuck Russell, the Northwest manager for the U.S. National Park Service.
They have been there, that's why we're here. We're here to send their system and do the best that we can for them to respond to that emergency and relief threats in the past.
Chuck says this is unlike anything we've ever seen stateside. Chris McCauley with the Northwest Interagency Fire Coordination Center.
The fire behaviors just pushing speed and just gets around quite a bit. Drive fuels, firemen is very bright out here. There's definitely lack of rain.
The fires have been burning well over 3 months, and it's now summer in Australia, meaning gusty winds and triple-digit heat may prompt a call for even more help. Brian Calvert, Como News. Some 500 students are still being blocked from entering Seattle classrooms. Today was the deadline for students to prove that they've been vaccinated under the new state law. Families were supposed to provide documentation at the start of the year, but Seattle, which is the state's largest district, got an extension to get all of their kids into compliance. Lawmakers eliminated the personal and philosophical exemptions to most vaccines after an outbreak of measles in Clark County last year. Kitsap Public Health District is moving its mobile needle exchange services to on-site healthcare facilities.
Public health officials say once the network is established, the mobile syringe exchange program will only operate in rural areas. The Kitsap Sun reports the mobile exchange program is expected to stay mostly the same for at least the next year until there's enough awareness and enough usage of the on-site services. The such changes will increase access to substance abuse treatment and healthcare services. However, skeptics say it will cut off access to services. Others say the program contributes to syringe litter, supports illegal drug use, and doesn't do enough to get people into treatment or offer other health care. Eric Hines, Como News.
There's been a dramatic drop in deaths due to lung cancer. That highlights a new report showing an overall decline in cancer fatalities. The Como's Corwin Hake reports deaths due to breast cancer are actually on the rise.
Nearly 143,000 Americans died of lung cancer in 2019. That's alarming, but it's 11,000 fewer deaths than the year before. This according to the American Cancer Society's annual report. Experts credit a decline in smoking along with advances in lung cancer treatments. Washington State saw 250 fewer lung cancer deaths in 2019. Also falling in our state, death by colorectal cancer and leukemia. But deaths due to breast cancer rose slightly last year in Washington and nationally, despite an emphasis on preventive screening. Some researchers point to a trend toward delayed motherhood. They say becoming pregnant earlier makes breast cells less likely to multiply and develop tumors. Corwin Hake, Como News.
An Oregon mother who wanted to use CBD oil to help fight her daughter's cancerous tumor instead of surgery will be allowed to be with her 13-year-old daughter during her upcoming operation.
Christina Dixon in Placerville County took off with her daughter last summer after a court ordered the child she'd be able to have surgery. The mother and daughter were found weeks later in Las Vegas, and Kylie was taken into protective custody. Dixon claimed the girl's traditional cancer treatment was not working and said she preferred naturopathic treatment instead.
Como's Carlene Johnson reports Dixon was ordered to have no contact with her daughter, but a judge has decided she can be with her during and after surgery. It's 2:10. Time for an update on sports from the Harley Exterior Sports Desk. Como's Bill Schwartz. Seahawks trying to break that very long victory drought in Green Bay.
It's been 20 years. Yeah, Seattle's last win at Lambeau Field was 1999. Since then, 8 straight losses to the Packers in Wisconsin. The Hawks are 4-point underdogs Sunday in the NFC Divisional Playoff game. Rookie receiver DK Metcalf coming off his best game for Seattle, 160 yards and a touchdown. Blessed to still play football after suffering a broken neck in college.
I'm not taking anything for granted, taking every practice, every rep, like it's my last. I'm just excited to be a part of this team, this organization, and that's pretty much it now.
The mayors of Green Bay and Seattle wager beer, cheese, and coffee from their local cities on the game, and also want fans to donate to food banks. Patriots quarterback Tom Brady takes to Instagram saying his playing days are not over. But will it be with New England now that he's a free agent? Husky Meadows basketball team facing its first women's basketball team. A little more sports. The Washington State woman makes history as the first woman to be hired as a full-time minor league hitting coach for a professional baseball team. Seattle Times reports West Seattle's 32-year-old Rachel prospect has been hired by the New York Yankees organization. She's currently working as a baseball research and development fellow at Drive Baseball in Kent. Her new job starts February 1st. The Boston Red Sox under investigation, Snoqualmie Boston Red Sox under investigation after a report that the team was stealing signs during the 2018 World Championship season. Evan Grella says the Athletics said the team gave the team a big advantage. The Red Sox to do. Attack that coach. You were able to immediately take down this rather elaborate defense that the pitcher and the catcher had set up.
MLB insider Jeff Passan says these accusations are different from the ones against the Houston Astros in 2017.
What the Astros allegedly did was take the video and then relay the signals directly to the hitters at the plate, whereas what the Red Sox were doing was more commonplace, which was going and trying to figure out the sequences of signs and then passing it along to runners at second base who could then pass it along to hitters. Either way, cheating is cheating. It's going to be really interesting to see how Major League Baseball handles this in terms of discipline.
Major League Baseball says it will investigate the reports, and the team has vowed to cooperate. The Red Sox were fined by the league in 2017 over accusations that Apple Watches were being used to convey opposing team signs from the video room to the dugout. The attorney for the family of a 2-year-old struck in the head by a foul ball at an Astros-Cubs game in Houston last season says the girl has permanent brain damage. ABC's Ryan Burrow reports.
Well, that one was fizzling out.
It was a dramatic scene at Houston's Minute Maid Park in May. A foul ball ripped by Cubs outfielder Albert Almora Jr. into the stand.
It hit a young child. And so
Now the attorney for the family says the girl suffered a brain injury that leaves her at risk of seizures for life. Richard Mithoff tells the Houston Chronicle the injury impacted the girl's central nervous system similar to that of a stroke. No legal action has been taken by the family yet. This season, all 30 Major League Baseball teams plan to extend protective netting down the foul line. Ryan Burrow, ABC News, Chicago.
And we've learned that George Perlis, who coached Michigan State to the Rose Bowl victory in 1988 and was a key defensive assistant for the Pittsburgh Steelers teams of the 70s, has died at the age of 85. Perlis played football at Michigan State and later was an assistant coach, head coach, athletic director, and member of the school's governing body. Green Bay Packers tried to lure Perlis to the NFL shortly after the Rose Bowl victory, and the Jets tried 2 years later. Both times, he leveraged the opportunities to get contract extensions and promotions at Michigan State. 2:14 at Como News. Time for an update on Como traffic with Sue Romero.
Things were going a little slow trying to get through downtown. We had a couple of earlier stalls in the northbound direction right around the James Street exit and near Seneca. They're both clear, but it's pretty heavy from Albro up towards the convention center because of the earlier stuff. If you're southbound on I-5, I'm seeing some slowdowns now from 520, basically down under the convention center and then down towards the West Seattle Freeway. A little bit of suspicious slowing southbound on I-5 at the mid part of Boyle Field. I don't see anything blocking on the cameras, but I do see it looks like it's been raining down there, so you want to be careful heading that way. On the east side, more traffic northbound on 405 between about the Valley Freeway and Sunset Boulevard, and southbound on 405 is still quite heavy from I-90, and that slowdown goes all the way down to 44th in Renton. Your next Como traffic at 224.
Today's weather now, and we expect a little rain through tonight, some possible rain-snow mix tomorrow morning, and more rain by the time the afternoon gets here, before tomorrow afternoon, that is. By Sunday and Monday of next week, the rain may in fact be snow. It's still a developing situation, but I want to give you a heads up well ahead of time if you want to make sure to put some gas in your car and groceries in the cabinet this weekend. Right now in Seattle, it's 43 degrees.
Stay connected, stay informed. Seattle's only 24-hour news station, Como News.
Bill O'Neill, our editor. I'm Taylor Van Sykes. Headlines that we're following today. Members of the House are preparing to vote on a war powers resolution. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the measure that looks to limit President Trump's authority to order military action against Iran will be brought to the floor tomorrow. She's among those against the president's order to kill a top Iranian general in Iraq, calling it a provocative and disproportionate military strike. Iran then, of course, retaliating last night, firing about a dozen missiles at American, or bases rather, where Americans are housed in Iraq, specifically Al-Assad base and one near Erbil in the northern part of the country. And then today, this afternoon, we've learned that additional rockets were fired upon the green zone near the U.S. Embassy. No casualties reported at this point, and it's unknown who fired those rockets. 2:16 now at Como News. Amid all of the Middle East issues, there's still the lingering talk of impeachment trial in the Senate. The Senate Majority Leader...
Staying on prescriptions, which tends to make you healthier. So get a free prescription savings review. Plus, earn up to 50 extra bucks rewards each year for filling. Because of the things you could be... Counts them all.
Articles are not yet passing them on to the Senate. Any rumors as to when that might happen?
So we're starting to see Democrats come out to say that they think it is time for House Speaker Pelosi to send those two articles of impeachment over to the Senate, which is different than what we were hearing pre-recess, so before the holidays. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi withholding those two articles of impeachment. She was saying until she could see what the trial terms would be. Democrats had been pushing for witnesses and documents to be part of the trial, and Republicans had indicated that they had no intention of calling witnesses. They felt that the investigative work was done in the House and that now it was time to move ahead with the trial. We did hear from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell yesterday, who talked about how so the idea was that if lawmakers, if senators couldn't come to an agreement over the rules of the trial, then they would have to take a full Senate vote on those rules. If all Democrats had voted to have documents and witnesses be part of the trial, then just 5 Republicans would have been needed to join Democrats for witnesses and documents to be part of the trial. And Senate Majority Leader yesterday coming out to say that he has the votes he needs to go forth with the trial without resolving the witness issue. So he is saying, and then this is something we've been hearing from Republicans for a little while, that the trial should move ahead, that they should begin the trial, and that they can resolve this issue of whether or not witnesses should be allowed to come forward later on. McConnell talking about President Bill Clinton's impeachment trial and how that trial had gone forward without resolving the witness issue until later. McConnell saying yesterday, if it was good enough for Clinton, it is good enough for Trump.
Now, we had John Bolton come forth and say that he would be willing to testify if subpoenaed. Has there been any development on that as to whether or not they will subpoena him?
Right, so that was something that kind of, that threw Republicans a curveball kind of, because that